Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it, wherever you are. Shalom, and welcome to Malka Fleisher.
Hello there. Hello. Happy pre-Pesach.
Pre-Pesach it is. Our house smells like it's got the weird smells of pre-Pesach, you know, like when the carpet has, been dusted, so there's like a carpet dust in the air, and when the, things have been sprayed with weird stuff, the fridge is misaligned with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we're
dust,
starting to eat stuff that's weird.
Weird stuff eating, like last night's excellent dinner.
We had a good meal last night, but now, like, the next few days are going to be full-on weird. I'm looking at the stuff that's in the fridge, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Buckle in.
Right. I mean, they say that, like, one of the cures against Alzheimer's is, doing things differently.
Yeah.
And it's like Passover is like the ultimate, do things differently, like shake it up and do it differently. So that's for sure a reality right now. And you could just smell it, could feel it. I'm constantly nervous. You know what I mean? And we've got to,
I thought that was just like a regular Jewish thing.
It is, but like then I had to clean the car yesterday, took it to my Arab neighbor, and did the regular car cleaning. They're part of it, they know all about all the laws, They're like, they're telling you what the laws of Pesach are, and they're cleaning the cars for Pesach. There's like a line for that, and and it's Ramadan at the same time, so like it's like he's fasting, and we're talking about Passover and Ramadan. Every other sentence is an issue from here and an issue from there. It's just the funny reality of the Middle East, And he's my friend. He's he calls me his friend, and he's like, do you want me to check the oil and water? I'm like, yes. Whatever, the whole thing happened, and he's at the same time doing a great job. At the same time, he's like burning garbage, literally burning garbage. Like, and I'm like, I just want to say to him, like, we don't burn garbage in the 21st century. We put it out, and it's like, so it's like we're friends. We live next to one another. He's got a different religion. At the same time, he's helping me. We know each other. He knows our cars, and at the same time, we have these things that like. We talked about him praying at Al-Aqsa and how he likes to do that from time to time.
Oh, yeah?
But
what did he say about it?
He says he likes it, but he doesn't like the fighting atmosphere of Jerusalem. Meaning to say he doesn't like that the Arabs make a trouble, and he doesn't like it. So he's a Bethlehem guy.
Right.
It's a different
Suburban.
thing. So Bethlehem, whatever it is. So there's that. So anyway, weird things happen right now here in the Middle East, and of course, I think, by the way, that also the Arabs are looking at us in our internal fight. They're like, what? Like, what are you guys fighting about? Because it's too confusing for the average Israeli, not to mention people who's...
You really think that they're not sure what we're fighting about? You don't think in the Arab world they know about, like, fighting over stuff? They're excellent at fighting over stuff.
Yeah, but they fight over, they're like, who's got... They understand... I
don't think they're wondering what we're fighting about. I think they're wondering what will happen. I think that they don't care at all what we're fighting about. I think that what they're thinking about, I'm talking about the national level. I think what they're thinking about is like, hey, is this going to weaken Israel, and how do we feel about that? Right.
But I still think that one of the things that the Jewish people do historically is weird our enemies out. Our unusualness is like, sometimes you're just like, so these people are making a war in the streets because of how many people will sit on a panel to choose their judges?
But it's not a war on the streets. There has been, I want to say, as a person who went to the right-wing, quote unquote, let's call it the pro-judicial reform protest in Jerusalem this week. There were so many people. Yeah. And it was so nice. And it was so much about like singing and cheering. And yeah, there was a political message. And yeah, there was even a disgruntledness. Absolutely. But it was like so nice and peaceful, and families and good religious kids and everybody being good. No weird fires in the street. Happened to be that on the way home in the car, we did run into a famous group called La Familia.
La Familia.
Okay.
Which is not exactly Hebrew.
Right. I don't know why they're called La Familia. I don't know. Anyway, so they're known as like a more aggressive group of right-wing people who sometimes make trouble. And we did see them, and we saw them a little bit, but it wasn't even that bad. They were clashing a little bit with police, but it was
more like, hey, we want to clash a little bit.
Yeah, it really wasn't such a thing. Now, I did see a video.
And you know that the police officer on the horse, he himself is a kind of La Familia guy, you know what I'm saying?
Just working for a different
It's almost like
body.
they got together in there.
It was very, I didn't see anything that looked very violent or anything like that. It was just like hooligans a little bit. Right. I did see a video. Wait, I just want to say, I do want to make a point.
Sorry.
Which is I saw a video of possibly a video of some Jews attacking somebody at a gas station. It was unclear what I was seeing from the video, but that's the accusation. The next day on Twitter, I see all these people sharing videos of like a few guys apparently in some corner were like cursing and saying like really nasty stuff about lefties, about homosexuals, about all kinds of stuff. I didn't even really watch, but there was a few guys. And I just thought to myself, boy, like, do these people either have absolutely no concept of what happened at this thing? Like, I never ran into those people. I didn't see it. All I saw was like a beautiful crowd of people with Israeli flags and little beautiful children and nice posters. We picked up a poster off the floor and brought it home. It was a poster that was made by a child, obviously made by a child. And it said, Anashim Achim Anachnu. We are brothers.
Right. We are people who are brothers.
We are people who are brothers. And it's like this is a saying that we say in a time of kind of like strife. And you go, no, Anashim Achim Anachnu. We are families. So we're not going to like, this is a way to try and keep the glue together and not have the strife. And the fact that people would want to focus so heavily on really what we're talking about out of 250 1,000 people. What we're talking about is like a total conglomerate of like 20 to 40 people max. I resent that. Like that actually I resent.
Well, I also
I resent that we're painted yet again. We're painted yet again as some kind of like extreme group, some like fringe group, and we're talking about 250,000 really nice people. And then there are people who want to take literally like 40 people and say that this is what this group of people is about. And I was really shaking my head because I left that rally being like, boy, you know, that was so nice. And before I went to the rally, I was discussing it. You know, I shared the rally information on a couple of WhatsApp groups. So one person who obviously wanted people to not attend this rally was like, you know, it might be violent. I heard La Familia is going, right? This group. And I was just like, listen, like, I'm sure it's going to be fine. You know, I plan on taking my kids and it's going to be, you know, I know who these people are. It's going to be fine. And they're like, well, La Familia is like really, really violent. So there's going to be violence. And there just wasn't. Like, there just was not. Instead, it was just a lot of nice people, a lot of running into people that you know from different times in life or different parts of the country that you haven't seen in a while. You know, people who are like-minded. And tonight, in fact, there's another rally. There's a rally in Tel Aviv. Some or all of us may go to that rally tonight in Tel Aviv. That should be interesting. Yishai, you had wanted a rally in Tel Aviv.
Absolutely. I've been calling for a rally in Tel Aviv for a long time. And to just show one simple thing, which is you're not going to bowl right over us. You're not going to rename us, you know, extremists and anti-democratic. You're not going to say these things because the fact is that we are trying to make the country more democratic, more beholden to the people, less beholden to unelected officials. And so you're not going to paint us and erase us and talk about us as some kind of extreme violent minority. We are people. We are here. We are Jews. We're Israelis. We're alive. You know, Chayani, we're alive. And I don't want you guys to just bowl over us. That's really what I think is important because the judicial reform has been frozen by Prime Minister Netanyahu, that legislation. And it's like we lost that effort. And by the way, I want to go back.
At least for now. It's, you know, you never know what will happen next.
Yeah. And by the way, interestingly enough, I want to go back to the show that we had 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where I offered up the offer of retreat Dunkirk in order to be like King David, right? Again. And be like King David, be like, no, you rule the country, we roll, you know, we're back. And at the time you looked at me like I was a Mad Hatter, right? But
yes.
but and I said it clearly that it was
a thought, and that's what happened in the end.
That is what happened in the end.
Yeah.
That is what happened. And we may have been better off had we smelled that
Earlier.
I must say, and I did not. And I said it then. It was a thought experiment. I wasn't sure, but there was some kind of vibration inside my soul, being like, I don't think we're winning this one. Like I don't think we're on the path to win. And when I was at the liberal left, secular Tel Avivian anti-judicial reform rally, and people have been very angry at me for labeling it that.
Why?
Because they're like, no, this is everybody. We're the country.
It's really not.
It's such a crock. It's such a crock.
There are representatives, just like at the right-wing rally. Right. In front of me was the cutest ever older couple. And they didn't look religious at all. The man was not wearing a kippah. The wife was wearing pants. They didn't look to me like religious people at all, and they were at the right-wing rally. Right. So you could say that both of them are everybody's rally.
But what I was saying, though, Malka, is when I went to the left rally, I was like, this is not just a bunch of like paid burger flippers. You know, this is actually the Tel Aviv nation. They have been fed, and they believe this other narrative, but they believe it. And I saw young people, cool people, older people, and I was like, these are the kind of people that if you bumped into them on a trek in Israel or at a restaurant in Tel Aviv, you'd be like, those are beautiful Israelis, God bless them. I was like, this is bigger. And
what's your point?
My point is that my sense 3 weeks ago that we are not winning this because this thing is a stronger movement than the nationalist right was aware that was fomenting on the other side. We did not foresee and prepare for the vociferousness, ferocity of this thing.
Right.
By the way, speaking of ferocity,
part of the reason we weren't prepared is not because they're a larger number, but because our narrative did not have the kind of opportunities that the other narrative had.
That's right.
The other narrative, the anti-reform narrative, look, you saw what happened the day that they called a day of paralysis, which I think is a great name, by the way. It wasn't, they said a name they said something true that wasn't actually propaganda. It was just a day of paralysis. And basically you had the heads of like major companies and institutions shutting stuff down. Yishai, kindergartens.
Right.
High schools.
Right.
The electric company.
Right.
Fox, which is a major brand in Israel. American Eagle. The airport. Now, there is a big conspiracy theory going around about who actually shut down the airport. We don't necessarily have to talk about that on the show, but that's a question mark. But the point is that all kinds, and of course, all the army, the big army reserve, huge Zionists declaring that they're not going to, protect the country anymore because of judicial reform.
Not because of judicial reform, because we want
democracy,
more elected officials on the board that elects judges. That's it. That's what we're talking about.
There's more to it than that.
No, but that's what was being voted on, and that.
But it's so the fact is, Yishai, when you talk about that we don't control things, that we weren't ready for this thing. I think there were a few ways in which we weren't ready, and one of the ways that we weren't ready is that we didn't kind of understand that non-political actors would politicize themselves.
Yes.
Like kindergartens. I can't get over it.
Those darn lefty kindergarten kids.
Like kindergarten. Just joking. Is like the electric company. I cannot believe, that the electric company, the gas, like gas for your car, they said they're not going to deliver it anymore. Now, who are these people? And how can they make such declarations? That was the first thing. We didn't understand that these non-political entities would politicize themselves, including the army. That one devastates me. But
it wasn't. Wait, just cautiously. It wasn't the army.
No.
It
wasn't the army. It was the defense minister, and it was a lot of the
cautiously.
Yes,
the defense minister is a right-wing guy who
got up on live television in front of the entire country, and
when Netanyahu was away,
validated shirking your duty and deciding when you will or will not defend the state of Israel.
If you like or
We're
not
not talking about even controversial acts here.
Right.
We're not even talking about I've decided I'm not, I don't know what,
now
bombing a city. We're talking about I won't defend Israel.
Malka, I want to take just a pause right now to just say, if you want to understand what's happening in the news in Israel, I really recommend two websites that are sponsors of the show, but are excellent websites for giving you news updates. One is jewishpress.com. Excellent news, excellent email. Highly recommend it. Sign up for it. It really gives you a great picture view of what's happening in Israel. And jns.org, of which we are now part of the JNS family. jns.org does a great job. I especially like their op-ed section. Really the best op-ed writers that we have, thinkers out there. And it's up to date. It'll give you the information about really what's happening in the Jewish world and Israel world. That's jns.org. Malka, I wanna say to you...
Did you mention Jewish Press?
I mentioned jewishpress.com
yes.
and jns.org. I want to now zoom out for just 1 second. You want to?
There was one more thing because I said thing number one.
Okay, so after that, I'll get to my more philosophical perspective.
Yeah, is that okay?
Happening.
Okay,
yeah, sure,
great.
Of course.
The second,
you're my wife, and it's pre-Pesach.
Yeah, you better listen.
Right now, I like this is like this month of Nisan until the end. I get demoted from head of the household to a servant. Okay, that's basically what it is. It's yes. I try.
Anyway, excellent. Yeah. So the second thing I want to say is that we didn't appreciate the actual not democraticness of some aspects of Israel, and how you know how they talk about this word protectia in Israel, where you have to, like, if you know somebody you can in a certain department that you need help with, then you can get help a lot easier. Like there's like helping out your friend, which in one sense is very nice. On the other hand is not so great, right? In theory, everyone should have equal access to the things that they need within reason, right? And we didn't understand that actually the secular left, as frankly, the original builders of the infrastructure of Israel, that those entities built it and kept hold of it, right? They built it and kept hold of it, which is sensical. But now what they want you to know is we built this and we're holding on to it.
Malka,
if
you go back to the audio from 3 weeks ago, you'll hear me say to you exactly that. These guys still control, they still own it, they have the power over it, and we don't understand. We think that we're an equal players. We think we're a feature.
We think it's democracy, but it's not democracy.
We're a bug, not a feature in their system. They are the system, and we are a bug. This is something I realized, after the Trump thing, whatever. I realized we are a bug in the system, not the feature yet. Okay.
So if we want to change that, what we're going to have to do, this is a place where I look at the Haredi community and kind of knock on their front door and say, listen, guys, if we want to be able to really have a say and change the way things work in certain aspects of Israeli society, then we have to be doctors, lawyers, corporate owners, pilots, and all these other things. We have to be a part of these systems. We're not going to be able to control it from the outside. We have to have fingers on the inside. That doesn't mean, of course, that you can't sit and learn Torah or you have a society which is very focused on that. But if you want to have a say, you have to be a part of the thing. In my opinion.
Very interesting point, Malka. Very interesting point. And I partially agree with you.
Okay.
And, there was that scene in which an ultra-Orthodox pilot piloted the El Al plane that took Netanyahu abroad and stuff. So there's an element of that I agree with you. And then there's an element where I don't agree with you. And the element it's not that I don't agree with you, is that I'm not sure. I'm still not sure.
Go ahead.
And here's the way to think about it,
I've given my rant, by the way. It's your turn. Go ahead.
Your rant was excellent. Can I tell you that?
I appreciate that.
I want to say...
If you want to hear more ranting later, we can
That's why people tune into the Yishai Fleisher show for Malka rants.
Yes.
And if you like Malka rants, hashtag Malka rants. Write me Malka rants with a capital M, capital... Remember, her name is with an H in the end and with the capital R. Malka rants. And...
partially agree, partially don't.
Partially disagree. The part that I disagree is, it's not that I disagree, it's that I could think about it a different way, which is, I'm not sure that the ultra-Orthodox are going to become necessarily doctors and pilots, necessarily. Maybe the real way to move forward is not to infiltrate the system, but rather that the system will change a little bit to be the it's a one word which would solve the whole thingamabob, which is appreciate. If the secular world will appreciate the importance of the Torah and its anchoring.
Isn't that the whole thing about being secular, is that you don't appreciate?
No, not necessarily. That's not the whole thing. I'm saying that if we would have an atmosphere in the Israeli society where we would like one another better, we would be able to get through this much better. And then and you're going to hear we have two rabbis coming up on the show today. It is Shabbat HaGadol, which is traditional to hear from a rabbi. So we have two rabbis, two priests, two Kohanim.
That's pretty
right.
Cool.
Yeah, we got two Kohanim. You're going to get the priestly blessing.
Wow.
Yes. And they'll talk about that. You know, I want to pull back for just 1 second and give a little bit of a philosophical outlook on exactly how it works. Before I pull back, it's like pulling back to the Alps. It's like you got to see the big picture, the beautiful Alps. You could actually go to the Alps and cycle through them in kosher style by joining koshercycletours.com. My great friend Aaron is gonna take you on a beautiful trip. You want to go in the Alps and see the Alps like Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, or you want to see the Dead Sea and zoom down from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea in kosher style. Great bikes, great challenging trails, and minyanim, all that you need to make your cycle tours amazing. koshercycletours.com.
Well, you'll want to make sure to pack your Israel Bible if you're going out on a trip.
That's right, because you want to be able to see the good land and see it with full eyes. So you want to go to israelbible.com. If you put in coupon code Yishai, bang, 10% off of the most beautiful Bible that will show you the land, from verses to commentary to great transliteration. Check it out, israelbible.com. So here's me pulling out a little bit, Malka. It's theoretical, but it's very important to understand. I've been quoted in some of my tweets have now been quoted in articles talking about, I wrote it's the classic socialist versus revisionist split. And these people were criticizing me. They're like, I'm not a socialist, I'm a capitalist. I was like, I don't mean socialist as in the economic system. I mean, it's the classic Ben-Gurion versus Jabotinsky split. It's the split in Israeli society. I want to explain it a little bit. One of the biggest questions theologically that people like in the Satmar community, for example, got stuck on is, how could it be that God made it that secular Jews would be the people who started the state of Israel? How could that be? And there's a few theories. Some people just don't understand it. They're like, how could this be part of the Messianic process? How could this be part of the rebirth of the Jewish state through these secular non-Torah people? Right. My answer is that, and this is my personal deep thought answer, is that one characteristic trait that had been lost to the Jewish people that was desperately needed for this time of rebirth and re-embodiment is the characteristic trait of action. Action, farming, fighting, Hebrew. The rebirth needed a renewed sense of embodiment, which had been lost in 2,000 years of bookishness, exile, and sojourning and fleeing all the time from place to place, and ghettoization. We had been estranged from the characteristic trait of action. And therefore, God made it that in order to rebreed into our peoplehood the characteristic trait of action, we needed generation or generations of action-oriented people. In order to do that, they had to cast aside with two hands the bookishness, the ghetto, and the exile mentality. And therefore, they had to say no to Judaism and Torah and Talmud, and to embrace action as a first principle. To go to an extreme in order to rebreed into a nation a characteristic trait that had been lost. That characteristic trait was action.
Okay.
And therefore, God created this generations of secular, socialist, would-be Israelis, Bilu, and all these other organizations, And they absolutely, unequivocally, miraculously, and with great strength were able to achieve the unimaginable, which is the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, their hold on this land. They pushed back armies. They rebirthed a language. They made kibbutzim. They drained the swamps. They fought the wars. It all happened. They built Tel Aviv. It happened. Not only did that happen, but another thing happened in the meanwhile, which is it's not that they were successful in action. They were successful in rebreeding action into our peoplehood. And as a nation, we accepted that trait that had been lost. Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Religious Zionists like ourselves, even the ultra-Orthodox, not even, they went out of the cities of Jerusalem and began to build, and they're farming and this and that. And the whole point is that the peoplehood in general accepted the lost traits. And many of the basic...
Yes and no, though, is what I'm saying to you. Yes and no. And what I'm literally saying to you is that I think that there are people who have not accepted that trait.
Of action?
They do actions. They build stuff. But I'm saying when it comes to national governance... How can you look, the country got shut down.
In a sense, what you're saying, Malka, is actually that process has to keep going.
I guess.
Right. That's what you're saying. Yeah. You're saying that's the process.
It's not done.
It's not done. Good, good, good. But it is done in part. In part, it is done. There is a state. It has been achieved to a large extent, not to a full extent. And action has been rebred into the nation. Why is that significant? Because their whole theory was that this is the new Jew. And they had, in order to breed action, they had to get rid of Judaism and Torah and bookishness and all that. But that is not a natural state for the Jewish people. Torah, religion, is the natural state of Jewish people. And as the religious world accepted the trait of action, then what happened is that they brought in action but merged it, hybridized it, in its natural form with Judaism and Torah, which is beautiful, a victory. But the problem is that the generations, that class of people who were simply secular, continue to exist alongside now action and religion people. And what happened is that the secular became redundant. They became like, you did your job historically.
They're not redundant.
Listen to what I'm trying to say to you philosophically, not personally, not individually. The point is that now when you and I'm not saying this. David Grossman says it, the famous writer, and Amos Oz. They were like, when I saw the religious jumping on the hilltops, wearing the famous army jacket, the Dubon, and with carrying an Uzi, I was like, no, that's mine. I'm supposed to be doing that. They felt and they feel that they've been supplanted, replaced. They don't understand how could it be. But the truth is, they are not the natural mode of how Judaism is going to be. The Israelis of the future are going to be both religious and action-oriented. What's my point? There is a frustration that the great Zionist renewal is now, in a sense, has come to its end of just plain secularism. It doesn't make sense anymore. So it's in that vacuum comes in this, progressive liberalism and other values and self-destructive values and all kinds of psychological stuff that sees us as the enemy. And I'll give you an example. I was once debating a kibbutznik, and I said to, and in public, and I said to him, I don't understand what you're yelling at me about. I'm your son. I've learned everything from you. I've taken literally all of your values. The only difference is I also have a kippah. He's like, no, you're not my son. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? I'm Eretz Yisrael, defending the land, speaking Hebrew. I took all of your values. I just also added Judaism. That's exactly what they're frustrated with. And so there is this situation right now where we're like, and they know that we're ascendant. Everybody knows that in Israel. Everybody, any secularist worth of salt knows that the religious world is ascendant, and that's why they're flipping out. Just like Saul was flipping out when he knew King David was ascendant. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in, and it's not a pretty situation in that sense. And so you can draw your own conclusions from what I just said, but I think that is really the situation that we find ourselves in. And on the one hand, we've got to embrace our brothers and sisters, and just like you said, you were like you know, it bothered you when I said that they have become redundant. We have to make them feel not redundant. You know, we have to make sure.
Oh, they're amazing, and the truth is that they did build this country.
Absolutely,
and we owe them a huge debt of gratitude.
That's right.
And I can sort of like they're wrong in the sense that you just because you make something in Israel doesn't mean you get to keep it in your pocket forever and not share it. You make something in Israel, it actually belongs to the people. That's democracy, is you create institutions that are supposed to serve everyone. Of course, I'm not talking about private institutions. Private institutions are private, but I'm talking about public institutions are for the public. They're for everyone to enjoy. But I don't want them to think they're redundant.
Speaking of made in Israel, Malka, Jewish people got to eat, okay? and we have a great...
That is the tie that binds.
That's right. We got to eat in this country. Prohibitionpickle.co.il makes yummy yummies, okay? Which help you get through your day, but especially through your holy Sabbath. It's fine to make good food, but to make it also holy, also Sabbath ready,
right?
Kosher,
and with love.
With love. That's prohibitionpickle.co.il. We are not just all of these things. We're not just advertisers. We're also customers. Also, another thing that's speaking of the founders that we just spoke about, the founders of Israel, we have the founders of Israel, which are buried in Hebron, the Jewish community of, and you could be part of protecting, defending, beautifying, teaching about, and our newest thing is to start, I started telling Dan Rosenstein of the Hebron Fund, we've got to also promote Hebron as anti-Semitism. When you want to be an anti-Semite, you want to erase the Jewish connection to the land and connection to our Torah. The way to fight it is to reconnect with the roots, which is Hebron. You can connect at hebronfund.org. Malka, it's time for a little bit of sweet Torah.
We are out of time.
We are?
For this section.
Oh, dingy. Malka, just a few more minutes. First is I know you got to go and I got to go as well. I got to get on TV, I-24 in just a few minutes.
But you know how I know?
Oh, because you got to pick up the kid?
No. How do I know?
Yes.
About the time?
Oh, because of... Oh.
Come on, Yishai. That was a softball.
Retro watch guy. Oh my God. Great watches. Classic watches. I'm telling you the truth. I love their Instagram. I love to see their coolest.
Yeah, you don't like to go through Instagram very much.
I hate Instagram, but I love Retro Watch Guy. They do a great job. RetroWatchGuy.com. Check out their 70s watches. You'll be like back in style, baby. You'll be like a Black Panther or a JDL guy. I don't know what.
What?
No, like old school 70s cool stuff like that. Like all the, or you'll be like in Haight-Ashbury with Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach wearing a cool watch from the 70s. It's really cool. RetroWatchGuy.com. Malka, we've got an amazing Kohen. Our first Kohen up right now is Rabbi Shimshon Nadel HaKohen. He's a friend. He's a Talmid Chacham. I love to hear from him. He's also the rabbi of Jerusalem's Kihilat Zichron Yosef, and he has an amazing chiddush to us about what is chametz. Rabbi Shimshon Nadel, take it away.
Shalom Yishai. As we are involved in preparations for Pesach, we have to ask a most basic fundamental question. Why do we go so crazy over chametz? Why do we spend days and weeks cleaning the home and koshering the kitchen? Why are there so many biblical and rabbinic laws and stringencies surrounding leaven? You can't eat it, can't own it, can't get any benefit from it. We search the home and destroy any chametz left over. To borrow from the Haggadah Shel Pesach, why is this prohibition different from all other prohibitions? The Radbaz, Rabbi David ibn Shlomo ibn Zimra, who lived from 1479 to 1573 and served as a rabbi in Cairo, Jerusalem, and Tzfat, asks this very question. And after providing a technical halachic answer, he concludes that the chametz represents the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. As we scrub and scour, it's a time to turn inwards, a time to reflect on those things about ourselves that we would like to see change, areas in our lives that could use some improvement, some cleaning, if you will. As we search for the chametz and destroy it, it's a time to uproot the things that are holding us back from reaching our potential. Because what is chametz after all? In one word, time. In fact, the very same ingredients that go into baking matzah become chametz if we let them sit for too long. Chametz represents missed opportunity. Our sages teach, mitzvah haba liadcha al tachmitzena. When the opportunity to perform a mitzvah arises, don't wait too long. Don't let it become chametz. Don't miss out. Don't miss the opportunity. Even in modern Hebrew, the word for missed opportunity is hachmatzah. Sound familiar? While slaves in Egypt, the Jewish nation suffered from paralysis, spiritually suffocated. They could not even hear Hashem's promise of redemption because of their kotzer ruach, their shortness of spirit. The Hebrew name for Egypt, Mitzrayim, implies narrowness, constriction, restrictions and limitations from the word mitzar. The bondage in Egypt wasn't merely a physical slavery, but a mental one. In Egypt, the Jewish nation could not achieve its potential. They could not fulfill their destiny. Each and every one of us has our own personal Mitzrayim, our own personal Egypt, something in our lives that's holding us back, preventing us from achieving our goals, some block that stands between us and destiny. But Pesach is Chag HaAviv, the springtime holiday, and represents renewal. Spring is already here in Jerusalem. Spring has sprung, the sun is shining, flowers are in bloom, the birds are singing. The feeling of rebirth and renewal is in the air. It's tangible. It's a new beginning. So as you scrub your counters and kasher, your kitchens, ovens, pots, and pans, remember, it's also a time to break free from whatever is holding you back in life. This is the season of redemption, both national and personal. It's a new beginning, a new start. May it be a Pesach of health, wellness, renewal, and redemption for all of Am Yisrael. Wishing all the listeners a Chag Sameach.
Wow, that was Rabbi Shimshon Nadel.
Awesome. I like that segment.
It was your idea. It was your idea to bring in that segment, and that's Rabbi Shimshon Nadel of Jerusalem's Kehilat Zichron Yosef in Har Nof. And I love that idea that the one way to describe chametz is time, not to miss time.
Yeah,
love that so
really
much.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. Malka, just before you go, I know you got to pick up our son. I just want to say one thing to you, which is there's many stories that I'm following, but there's one story which we got to talk about for just 1 second, which is that Joe Biden opined on President Joe Biden opined on what. This is what's going on in Israel. He said that I'm concerned that they get this straight. They cannot continue down this road. I have sort of made that clear. He's telling us how to run our democracy.
Made that clear. Thanks, Daddy.
Yeah, and he says, I hope he walks away from it, Netanyahu, from the judicial reform. They know my position. They know America's position. They know the American Jewish position. Yeah.
He said they know the American Jewish position.
Yes, he did. And I think that is just fabulous. Thank you so much for your opinion. I made a tweet which I think is very, very plain and simple. Some people said it harsher. For example, Minister of National Security Itamar Ben-Gvir, who I also advise, he said that we're not a star in the flag of the United States to be told. And I wrote it a little bit more diplomatically, maybe. I wrote, Dear Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration, thank you for your concern for our welfare. Our country is having an internal family discussion and will come out of this period even stronger. If we need anything, we'll be sure to reach out. May God bless our nations, Israel. Okay? And that's exactly right. The Jewish people should not be dictated to what's happening in our country. Dude, respect our democracy, respect our space. And with that, Malka, I just want to finish off by also thanking one more organization that's part of our family, which is High on the Har.
Yes.
Go to the Temple Mount. You need to.
Right. There's nothing more Passover than going to Har Bayit.
That's right. And maybe you'll be able to bring a Paschal lamb. And even if not, go up kosher, go up in style, go up and know what you need to know. HighOnTheHar.com. The Har means the mountain. So that's HighOnTheHar.com. That's an amazing organization headed up by my friend MJ and Rabbi Levi. And now, Malka Fleisher, before you go, I just want to say that I know you're out of time, so I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Lots of love to you, Malka.
Yes, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
Rabbi Shlomo Katz is celebrating a year since the new building of the Shirat David Synagogue, and I came to his offices to talk about Shabbat HaGadol. Our second Kohen of the day, Rabbi Shlomo Katz, take it away. All right, folks, Yishai Fleisher here, and I'm in the beautiful study of Rabbi Shlomo Katz in the amazing Shirat David Synagogue, the singing synagogue of Gush Etzion and Efrat, here in the mountains of Judea, really a stone's throw away from Bethlehem. And this shul, synagogue, Beit Knesset, is called Shirat David because indeed it really reflects the song of King David. And also, just judging by the books that I see around me right now in Rabbi Shlomo Katz's personal library, I see a lot of the collected wisdom
of also the Hasidic tradition, including the kind of Eretz Yisrael wing of it, which is the Rav Kook and so forth, but also the classical Polish and Ukrainian, all that wisdom that came from the Baal Shem Tov on. At the same time, I also see books of halacha. In this Beit Knesset, it's very special, and everybody, it's become a scene. You come here Friday night, I come here Friday night, and it's become something that people around Israel come to, seminaries and yeshivas, in order to enjoy and experience that feeling. And the reason that I'm also in the study is because we're right at the eve of Shabbat HaGadol, and it is traditional, the Shabbat right before Passover, the big Shabbat. It's traditional to hear from a rabbi. It's like a kind of like, it's not a law, but it is something that's done. The tradition that you go and you hear a rabbi speak. Like, you need to hear a little talk right directly from a rabbi. So I thought it would be fun to ask Rabbi Shlomo Katz, who's very busy and doing chupot every single night this week, and all the stuff that a shul rabbi has to deal with, and a musician as well. Rabbi Shlomo Katz, thanks so much for letting me into your study.
What an honor, Yishai. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're together, and I'm glad that I have the chance to also extend that invitation to everyone that's listening right now. Please, we built this for you. We built this for us. We built this for a bigger picture. It's a dream. We're celebrating our first year in the new building this coming Shabbat, this coming Sabbath. And like Yishai said, it's a festival every single Shabbos here. I don't have any other words, completely beyond me, but I know it's for a bigger picture. So whenever you find yourselves, however you find yourselves, whatever you're wearing, please may that never be in preventing indicator of what you should be, where you should be. Just someone's here is waiting with a hug.
In fact, maybe a month and a half ago or two, I brought in some Gentiles, pro-Israel loving Gentiles, and I'm like, they're coming with me to shul, and I took them in, and they were just lifted up, and it was really fun. They were real lovers of Israel. It happened to be right after Parshat Yitro. It wasn't Parshat, it was the next, but it was like we still had that spirit of Yitro there, and so like it was a type of Jethro thing, and he came into the kahal, into the crowd. All right, we've had some truly memorable weeks. They are a little bit like the weeks of the disengagement in 2005, and the tensions that underlie the society of Israel, left and right, and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and secular and religious, and maybe even socialist and revisionist, maybe, if that's or that class of those classes of people, maybe not in the economic ideology, but in the continuers of those traditions. We've had a clash. We've had a clash here. It's been a clash. It's been everybody's noticed that it's been a clash. But then there's people like Nasrallah who are sitting in a bunker in Lebanon, and he's like, you see, I'm going to wait it out. Israel's going to be destroyed. And here we are, Shabbat HaGadol. We're about right before the Shabbat of Liberation. So are we about to, totally, is Israel about to rip apart and become, at one scenario, two kingdoms? Or are we holding strong, and are we going to grow through this? That's my question for Shabbat HaGadol here.
It's also your question for every day, but it's definitely for Shabbat HaGadol. I think it's a wonderful way to look into the preparation for Pesach, because that's what Shabbat HaGadol was. Shabbat HaGadol is the initial Shabbat HaGadol. The initial one came out on the 10th day on the month of Nisan, where we were told to take the Paschal lamb, which was the Egyptian god, tie it to the bedpost, and hold and watch it for 4 days, while all around us, we had every legitimate reason to be freaked out of our minds, and yet it was a chance to display to ourselves, not to God. God knows already. It was a chance to display before ourselves what we really believe in, what we really know in our hearts to be true. And that's the sign of a free person. The sign of a free person that eventually became a free person on Seder night, on the 15th, of the eve of the 15th of Nisan, a few days later, was when it's clear to them, like it was to the Jews back then, this is what I really want, this is what I really believe in. And God just gave me an opportunity for me to look inside. And that, I think, is exactly what's going on over here right now. It's pretty confusing this year, because usually it's easy to say, like we say in the Haggadah of Pesach, Shebechol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu. In every generation, the Nasrallas are sitting around us to come and wipe us out. And this year we have this new fear of wait a second. It's not just omdim aleinu. It's like yoshvim beineinu. We're amongst ourselves. What's going on over here? So this is what I'm feeling. Shabbat HaGadol. Shabbat HaGadol is a time this year to realize that the lingo that's being used in Israeli politics is really deep and spiritual. There's this debate whether what the government has tried to do is a reform or whether it's a revolution or a haficha, not a revolution, it's a different than revolution. It's a
putsch, an overturn.
An overturn. Now, I want to say like this, spiritually speaking, the left got it right. It is. It's an overturn. Meaning what, not what the government's doing, what the Jewish neshama is striving for. It's not just another reform of changing a few things here and there. It's just not going to work. We need something new. Am Yisrael needs a completely new light with which to engage other Jews with which to engage God with which to engage ourselves with. It has to be. Because sometimes it's okay to clean out certain vessels, utensils, you got to clean them very good. But sometimes, like clay cheres, which is an earthenware vessel, right? Did I say that right?
Ceramics,
right? So it says that, or if it becomes impure, the only way to fix it, shviratan, hitaharatan. The only way to fix it is actually by breaking it. So this concept that we've been holding on to as if we know exactly what the right way is, it just cracked in front of our face. But what a beautiful thing it is to not to hold on to things that are old anymore, concepts that are old. And I think that's in the big picture. There's a lot more to say on that, but in the big picture, that's the preparation towards Pesach that really starts Shabbat HaGadol. Is okay. What am I letting go of? It broke anyway. What am I letting go of, and what am I holding near my bedpost to now get ready to become a truly free person? It's hard. Especially where people of tradition. So by us, tradition, minhagim.
Right.
It can get very confusing because I could start to feel like I'm not loyal. I'm not, what's the right word? I'm not
a traditionalist.
right. When really I'm the most, but really Abraham wasn't a traditionalist, thank God.
Right. Neither
was anyone that had anything real to do in this world. And that's the light that's coming down with the light of freedom. So that's where we're at. And it's a very, it's beautiful, but it's also very like a responsible time. Like, wow, I got to make sure my heart is wide open. And I got to make sure that I'm really done with the chametz, which means my ego of saying this has to be the right way, and be open for Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir, a new light should be coming down from Zion.
You remind me, Rabbi Shlomo Katz, of one of the greatest moments in the last few weeks, visually speaking and emotionally speaking, was the rally of the left that prepared to march onto Bnei Brak. They marched onto Bnei Brak, and of course, they loaded themselves up with helmets and body gear so that the clash, they'll survive it, and hopefully, and there'll be a physical clash and a fight between Jews. And as they came in, the other side was well prepared for them with, I heard 5 huge pots of cholent, music blaring. Now, not like modern Hasidic music, but like classic tunes. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hashorid. And these like middle-aged plus folks from Tel Aviv were taking off their helmets and crying because they remembered Bobby and Zaidi, Safta, and the smells and the cholent and then there was all these other videos of them just talking without like not Israeli like angry talking, just not hand motions, just calm discourse. Yeah. It was unquestionably a moment of Kiddush Hashem. Unquestionably a moment of Kiddush Hashem. And for me, it was also a moment where the Haredim were able, not with words, but with smells, tastes, and sounds, to give over what it is that they're anchoring for the nation, which is, in one word, Yiddishkeit. Yeah. These guys are the anchors of Yiddishkeit. And for a minute there, you saw that the Tel Avivians were like, oh yeah, Yiddishkeit. That's right. That's what these guys are about. And so, but on the other hand, most of the time, there's a very clear line between Bnei Brak and Tel Aviv, that are neighbors, by the way. Yeah. There's a clear line between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And oftentimes, you rarely get to cross those lines. For example, when you do reserve duty, you get to cross those lines. But so often, you don't. And therefore, we don't touch one another, and we're talking different languages. How do you think, Rabbi Shlomo Katz? How do you think that we? And you're also on top of being a rabbi, you're also a musician, which also transcends. But how do we bridge a gap and talk to and share those other values that have now become kind of mutually exclusive?
I think music is. I'm glad you brought that up. I see it. I mean, I've seen it my whole life. Music's the language of the soul. With music, you kind of. Like Pesach, you jump ahead millions of miles and you reach places much faster than you could have ever through just regular talk. Music's one of them. Music's probably one of the main ones.
A good smell of cholent also will do it.
Even if it's not Thursday night. Right. I think it was Thursday night.
It was Thursday night.
Right. They chose the right night to go. But I'll tell you, I was choking up when you were speaking because I was petrified that Thursday afternoon. I really was. I was like, oh boy, this is when it comes down and this is where the blood is going to be. I mamish felt like I really felt batzon. And when the footage started coming out, especially that guy that took off his helmet, started crying to Shalom Aleichem. That's where the nigun came. The nigun comes in and reminds people where they are. It's funny, when Yaakov Avinu sends his sons down to Egypt during the famine, he says, K'chu mizimrat haaretz. Take the nigun of Eretz Yisrael. If you want to make it through and find your brethren, take a nigun from Eretz Yisrael. K'chu mizimrat haaretz. So I find that to be like, music especially goes just infinitely, it just reaches infinitely faster and deeper, more than any other thing that we know of. But it's
not so easy for a layperson. Okay, you're called into a concert, you get to do it.
Right.
Like you're working at Google Israel. It's not like you can just start a nigun. We have there's borders that are created, and some people are, by the way, experts at borders. I'll give you just one example. Breaking the Silence, the organization, they are experts at preparing their people to shut out any conversation with a so-called settler. They will come into our house, into our town, and you cannot, if you yell at them, they're ready for that. If you try to talk to them nice, they're ready for that. And they just put up a masach, they put up a border, and you cannot talk. You cannot break through that border. And that's, if anything, that's their, now that I'm saying that out loud, I just realized that's your Avam ben Navat. That's the creation of these, like, the masachim, these screens. Yeah. Again, I'm coming back to it. Like, do you have any ideas or any comments on the challenge of getting through this Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, this wall that's been created between them?
I could give like 20 different pieces of advice in there, but the one that, and not as a cop out, but I'm not saying this as a cop out, but one that I feel the most is that it says in the Torah, anyone that's soft-hearted, he can't go out to war. Now, I'm not saying this is a war. It is a spiritual war. It is. I'm not Khalila saying it's a war. But there's some basic things that the people that go out in the name of God, stink at. And that is, first of all, PR. God has the worst PR. The Torah has the worst PR.
I mean, it used to not. It used to be the book of the world. It used to be.
No, it's something changed. I don't know when, but we really have shvat, like really negative PR. And Rav Kook once said, in the Torah it says, in Ha'azinu, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, when I call out on the name of God, Havu Godel Elokeinu, I'm supposed to make God sound big. Instead, what happens? Many people speak out in the name of God. Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, Havu Katnut Lelokeinu. They make God seem so small, so irrelevant, so not needed. And those of us that have a desire in our hearts to bridge this gap have to do some deep, serious, spiritual root work inside the neshama to make space for God, for Hashem, through real prayer, tears over Am Yisrael. I think only if you've cried over Am Yisrael, like really cried over Am Yisrael, only then can you really be someone that can go and say, I have something to share with I have a besorah. And Baruch Hashem, I'm sitting in the presence of someone that has, so you know what I'm talking about. But I think that anyone out there that is trying to do something, unless they've learned how to cry over Am Yisrael, don't start a new organization. I'm sorry. I love you. I don't think we need new organizations. We also don't need new rabbis. We need rebbes. We need soul masters. That's what I believe with all my heart and soul.
Okay, watch this. I'm going to jump a topic from a topic, but I think it's part of the same thing. So what you just said is, Rabbi Shlomo Katz, you said that we were talking about these masachim, which means these dividers that are between us. And we talked about within the nation, you're talking about you got to cry for Israel, you got to love the people, you got to be a soul master. We have 5 books of Moses, right? Most everybody can connect to the book of Bereshit, right. Genesis. Most everybody can connect to the book of Shemot. The book of Bamidbar is like, if you love politics, it's the best. It's got great stories and great stuff and blessings and things. And then Devarim, I like to call it the book of Jewish philosophy. You can't, I always say in the summertime, it's very hard for me to give Divrei Torah because I'm always just like, read the book. It's just saying it to you. So what do you want from me? But the book of Vayikra is hard, especially the first few chapters. Before we get into tort law and Bein Adam Lechavero, between people and that kind of stuff. And there's many interesting Torah portions. But the first few Torah portions that deal with these korbanot, these offerings, there's a masach, there's a divider there. And now there's other dividers in Judaism. For example, there's people who don't know what it's like to pray every day, 3 times a day. There's a divider there. There's a divider for a lot of people about Talmud. Talmud is hard for a lot of people. But help me figure out a way, Rabbi Shlomo Katz, to get over the divider of connecting to the various technical and very varied issues of the temple and the animal sacrifices there. How am I supposed to connect with that today? How do I become a better, because I know I want to, I know I need to, but I don't know how to.
Without Chassidut, I have no idea how to answer that question. Without specifically the Alter Rebbe in Chabad, I have no idea how to answer this question, but in Chassidut, one of the main items we're dealing with is that every person has a godly soul and a nefesh bahamit, and an animalistic soul. And we're trying to constantly conquer and sacrifice that animal soul and bring it up to Hashem and be that. And that's the point of this world, of humanity. So within the works of Chassidut, regarding the parshas, like these parshas, Vayikra, Tzav, and Shmini, it's very clear how every single pasuk is helping us with our inner battle. But you must read the Chassidic commentaries on it, because you're right. If I'm sitting there with what was that translation we had growing up? That big blue Chumash, Tzino, and I'm not. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Pentateuch?
Yeah, that one. Forget it. But the whole book of Vayikra, we only have 3 stories. It's crazy. Only 3 stories, and the rest are laws, agricultural and leprosy, and it's true. But it happens to be the Vayikra is also the inside. It's the sandwich, meaning there must be something in here that's keeping the outer columns together, and that is avodat ha'adam. That is figuring out how I'm supposed to work on myself. So, for my dearest brothers and sisters, I would recommend strongly the Gutnik Chumash.
It's like a rust-colored, rubber-coated type of thing. Yeah. It's the Chabad. It's kind of big. They have a small version as well.
The small versions too. By far. That'll take you to specific points within each portion that'll make you feel alive with the parsha. And I'm glad you're bringing this up. Every Rav should speak about this. 100%.
Yeah, a lot of people, their eyes glaze over and they don't know how to connect it. Rabbi Shlomo Katz, I want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Your lessons can be also found online at rabbishlomo.com or
rabbiShlomoKatz.com, I think, or the shiratdavid.org, YouTube, wherever you can. We're trying to just do our thing. And Baruch Hashem, we have partners like Yishai, and we should basically be blessed to spread God's love and heart first in our hearts and then in the rest of the world.
Rabbi Shlomo Katz, thanks so much. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Gadol Shalom.
Amen. Amen.
Yishai Fleisher, I want to thank you. I know you're picking up our son. God bless you. I want to wish you a Shabbat Hagadol Shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Kasher V'Sameach.
That's right. I don't know if we'll get another show out before the beginning of Passover, Pesach. Everybody have a great Exodus movement of people, but the most important thing is to recognize that God is one. We're starting that process of the 50 days all the way to Shavuot. God is one. He's brought us out of slavery into service of us, into His service, and He promised us that from the exile He will bring us through the splitting of the Red Sea, i.e., through the 2,000 years of exile, to return to the land of Israel. Lastly, I want to thank Moshe Herman, Ben Bresky, Yocheved, Tabitha, and Lewin were live for all the great work to get this show out into the world. Be strong out there. Write me an email, yishai@yishaifleisher.com. Thank you for all the folks that donated to buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Love you a lot. God bless you guys. Stay tuned, stay strong, stay connected. We'll be back with more next week. And shalom.